Andertons, where are you? You're not at Andertons, but you should be, because we're about to shoot something magnificent.
We are. It's 2017, it's the summer of 2017, and I thought we'd do an updated shootout between what 2017 will get you in the PRS Custom 22 or 24 Orange.
Versus what we would also get in the Gibson range of the Les Paul land.
So we're going to go and choose a 2017
Careful
spec.
with that, because you might get done by Gene Simmons.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Let's change it to that.
Just that this like the.
No, you do the other side. Do the other side. No, the other. Mirror image me. There you go, bro.
Patent that, Gene Simmons. So yeah, 2017 we're going to go and grab a Les Paul Standard, and I'm going to choose that one. But for now, in this room of PRS joy, Rob, choose a So
Rob, choose one we've already chosen.
Custom 22 versus Custom 24.
Yes.
Obviously the 22 is...
Can I be PRS team and you be Gibson team?
Absolutely, but I'm just letting you... So 22 has the...
20 frets.
Obviously 20 frets, but the the 5815 pickups, so the more vintagey ones. 24 has the 8515s, so the more sort of modern, higher output, perhaps.
Or HFSy.
More PRS.
And you get an owl on it as well,
Absolutely.
which is good.
So you can go with either.
Well, I'm going to go for a 24 fret, surprise, surprise, and I've chosen this one in advance to make this segment much smoother and easier.
You cheeky monkey.
Yes, ooh ooh.
So
there you go. This is my PRS choice, and I stand by it.
Yep, now you've probably noticed that in 2017, a little bit to do with some of the changes in price on American imported instruments, you're going to need £3,000 burning a hole in your pocket to walk out the store with a nice PRS Custom 22 or 24.
Yes.
Now obviously that's quite a lot more than it's currently going to cost me to buy a Les Paul Standard. So even before I've chosen one, that's one in the tick box of win for Gibson.
Let's mosey on over to Gibson land.
Yeah.
Very few people realise that Porritt Smith have also expanded into pianos, as you can see along here. Let's see. Nice new piano series. They were going to put birds on every key, but then I think someone thought that was overkill, so it's just on the artwork. Not even slightly true.
Of course, as you probably know, I've got two choices in the Gibson Les Paul Standard range. I can choose the traditionally spec'd one, which would, I'm going to go for a blue colour off.
Oh, right.
Which is, I can choose loads of different colours, but here is a traditionally spec'd one. So this would have the locking tuners, amongst other traditional features,
versus what
I could go for a high performance one, which would have the robot, what do you call it, the G-force tuning system, the different heel neck.
Now, it's because you've been working out, Lee, because they look heavy.
Yeah, because I am a traditionalist and always have been, apart from the fact that this colour isn't terribly traditional, but it does go with my rather fetching t-shirt. I'm going to go with this.
I'm going to go with this.
As you can see, we're playing the blues on blue guitars. My name's been Blues.
Let's do a pose that we can use as a thumbnail.
As I said in the other room, I've already got £1,000 change, so I'm going to buy myself a nice new guitar amp, or maybe an SG or something to go with it. Let's go. So hang on, we'll have to...
Ice is back with this brand new invention.
We're in the room. We're in the room having enjoyed the beauty of air conditioning in the Andertons store. Now we're back in the
room that had air conditioning that's now been turned off.
Because for you, we only turn it off for you because if we didn't turn it off, all you'd hear in the background would be this annoying like.
Everything we do,
we do it for you.
Do it for you. Like sweat and stuff and get really hot in this review.
So, I was about to call you Bob.
Let me stop you right there.
I mean,
Lee, I will reach my final form. I reckon in about 10 years' time when I take all my hair off, have a massive giant beard, pleasing all the Americans, and then I become a Bob. That's my final form.
Fine.
Is that I progress into Bobdom. But for now, I'm still Chappers
or Chappers. Okay, Chappers. Why don't you tell us everything that you love about the PRS Custom 24?
Okay, so that's pretty easy for me because I've owned a number of them. I think primarily for me, it was the blend of everything I looked for in guitars. So it isn't a single cut. Obviously, this is a double cut, but there are elements of that in it. It isn't an S-type, but there are elements of that inside the design. It's like somebody spent a lot of time thinking what will really feel great to the player and what will really sound great. Nothing was rushed. Spearheaded by an incredibly passionate dude. And aesthetically, I love the shapes. I think this is some of the most beautiful conceptual design for guitar build in years and years and years. I think it's a new classic. I think in terms of materials, I think they've absolutely, got the right materials.
Gibson.
Yeah. Well, no, they haven't copied Gibson. They're using great materials just as Gibson do. And and they also innovate. They come up with cool things like this amazing bridge and these really cool locking tuners. But above all, there's two things I like. So forget all that.
Forget it.
It's the playability and it's the tone. Because you get these tones. You get these notes that sing and you get this voice. And the voice is not Gibson. The voice is not Fender. The voice is a PRS voice. And that's what I love best about this guitar.
Let's hear it. And because you talk about this blend of, it's got some G-type tones and some S-type tones in it. Let's hear them. Let's hear it.
I'm loving the B-cop.
That's not a
B-cop, G-cop.
That's not a challenge. It's just I'm interested.
Okay, so let's start off with the F-type. But step it up and you get that in between. In the middle position. Another in-between sound. And then right up in the necky neck. But that's not all, because this is me kind of relatively cleaned out. If I activate some of my filthy pedal board, of which I have the Mjolnir and the Feed Me, you get this kind of tings.
great sound.
It's a great sound.
Now you've got, obviously on PRS, there are typically two neck carves that you can opt for. Pattern regular,
standard and pattern regular, and pattern the same and pattern different. And
you've got the wide thin, which will give you a more contemporary, I would say somewhere between like a Fender and an Ibanez-y kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then you've got your pattern regular, which is much more of a nod towards something a bit more, Gibson-y.
Yeah.
And that's just a personal choice, whatever, if you've got other guitars and you're thinking, do you know what, I've always preferred the feel of this one or this one, then that should give you a pointer as to which neck carve you're likely to like on the PRS. Always try one though, just to, double check.
I think the giveaway in what Paul was going for in this guitar, if you were like a little Clouseau looking for a clue to go, I wonder what he was going for with this guitar, what was in his mind?
Yeah.
It's the scale length. You look at that little number and you go, all right, I see what you're doing there, bro.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's the slightly, PRS has always, or typically always been a slightly longer scale length than a Gibson. It gives a bit more tension in the strings, it changes the tone, gives it that slightly more snappy vibe tone to it.
And it's in the middle.
Yeah, and I must admit, for probably the first 15 or so years of selling Paul Reed Smith guitars, for me, there were too many comparisons to the Les Paul. There were too many like, oh, this has got to be better, or this has got to be better, or this, And I think in the last 5 years, the vibe with PRS has really kind of gone, do you know what, we've been around a long time now. Can't we just be our own thing?
But yeah, absolutely.
It's like,
how long has PRS been a thing? Like
30,
fully fledged?
30 years in 2015, so 32 years now. So yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it's almost gone, if you want a guitar that sounds like a Strat, buy the Strat. If you want a guitar that sounds like a vintage Les Paul, buy a vintage Les Paul. Yeah. If you want a guitar that sounds like a PRS, buy a PRS.
Well, now might be quite a good time to say that I'm hoping, this isn't confirmed, but I am hoping to visit Maryland with my buddy Joe and Dave and visit the factory that makes these guitars.
I'd love to see inside there.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued with, how you actually go about making guitars. Not so much how you go about making guitars like one at a time, but I mean as in, these companies that make hundreds of guitars. I'm always kind of intrigued to see how they do it and how they maintain quality and all that.
Fingers crossed. Tell me about that thing.
Okay, so the Les Paul Standard doesn't really need any introduction. If you are looking at me now, going, I'm a bit unfamiliar with that style of guitar, you've clearly...
Welcome to YouTube.
Yes, you've clearly been living on another planet for the last 100 years. So in the early 50s, the wonderful Gibson Guitar Company designed a guitar in collaboration with Les Paul, preeminent sort of guitar player of that time, and very experimentalist audio person. And they came up with what became, for me, the iconic shape rock guitar of all time. I guess that's just my personal opinion, but I suspect if you asked 100 guitar players,
I think you're probably right.
Most would go, yeah.
If you think about like the great rock and roll guitar players of all time, I mean, I'm putting this number out of my asshole
completely,
but I reckon the majority of them played a Les Paul.
For sure. And, there would have been a time throughout the sort of 50s and 60s and 70s where that may have been driven by a lack of choice. There were lots of the brands that we know and love nowadays didn't exist back then.
BC Rich.
Obviously.
There were no Warlocks. Imagine a world with no Warlocks.
Imagine. But the Les Paul Standard has remained as a kind of a flagship model within Gibson's range. Now, to be honest with you, there is all companies, I think, Fender, Gibson, PRS, they've all become slightly price point obsessed in the last 10 years. And it almost feels to me like there has to be a different model for every sort of £100 or $100 of, any customer's budget. So there are now inevitably dozens of models in the Gibson range, slightly less in the PRS range, but still lots of models, dozens and dozens of models in the Fender range. But the Les Paul Standard has kind of maintained its place at the, as a flagship guitar for Gibson. And in more recent years, I think what Gibson have also positioned the Standard as its it's kind of the one that it's still okay to experiment a bit on, in the way that Les Paul was a very experimental kind of guitar
I reckon
player.
he was Nikolai Tesla brought back to life.
I think he probably was. So they've kind of separated this idea of going, now if you want something like that isn't mucked about with every year, you either go full custom shop, vintage reissue, or you buy the Les Paul traditional, and that would maintain some of those kind of elements that people generally agree you kind of shouldn't muck about with. The Les Paul Standard, though, is the model that every year they'll kind of go, hey, let's try these new features on, because it's
laser frets.
It's like maybe that's what Les Paul would have wanted.
I wish they'd invent laser frets. That would be great.
So,
Elon Musk's going to do that really soon.
I think he probably is.
Can I just drop a hint?
Of course, drop a bomb.
2 great YouTube channels to check out. Number 1, you got to watch the playlist called Musk Watch.
Musk Watch,
Which
is that
is
Elon Musk, is it?
It's these 2 amazing guys. It's the most metal thing on YouTube, but it's got nothing to do with music. And they literally just watch Elon Musk doing things and they talk about it. It's incredible. The other one is shitty flutes.
That's funny. You'll probably laugh about that for maybe 5 minutes and then never watch another video they would do, but it is funny for those 5 minutes. Anyway, so the 2017 Les Paul Standard, some of the things that, I've got the regular spec version. Obviously, if I'd gone for the high performance version, I'd have had the G-force tuning, I'd have had the more sort of access style neck join, amongst other things. I'd have had a slightly higher grade of flame top. But on the regular spec version, I've still got locking tuners, an elliptical carved neck, which means that the curvature of the back of the neck follows the form of your sort of thumb and first finger a little bit more.
Ergonomic.
So it's a bit more rounded on the thumb side, a little bit flatter on the finger side. Compound radius fretboard, coil tappable switching.
I've got a question for you, Lee.
Yeah.
So the high performance, the back of the neck, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, these are a similar construction method.
Yeah.
But the high performance Les Paul, that is a superior neck joint.
Well, it's a neck through style,
It's a set through, is it?
Yeah, sorry, it's a set through, but it effectively, as you say, the carve is designed to remove some wood from here and give a seamless join.
Arguably, it's a superior. Why do they have it on all the guitars? Why not have it on every Les Paul?
Well, I don't know.
Why would people still want the clunky block? I'm
always,
just giving you the back.
No, I agree, because guitar players, by their very nature, are divided into camps of those who don't want anything changed. They still want
That's both of us a lot of the time.
They still want non-master volume, valve amplifiers, analog pedals, and vintage spec guitars.
You know what it is? It's reenactment rock.
Yeah, and I'll be totally honest with you. I suppose I don't play a lot past the 15th, 17th fret. I've never picked up my Les Paul and just gone, oh, really hate that neck join. Now that's just me. So I'm naturally drawn to going, well, I've never really worried about it, so it's never really been a feature that I'd look to try and overcome. But clearly, guitar players who have encountered that problem, or really want to get up here and play with speed and dexterity up here, probably will want one with a different.
So it's just
carve.
a heritage thing. People want the history.
Anyway, look, I've babbled on. Let's just play my sounds. Now, I tell you what I do like about the PRS. I've always liked. I don't think that controls that you have to do this to are possible to kind of do fast on the fly. I've always preferred, either the switch here or the switch here, like the PRS, and I don't, in a way, I quite like the fact that you can very quickly go to a coil tapped kind of setting on the PRS, whereas it's a little bit more time consuming.
Count me down, and I'll go for a coil tap sound. Ready? Count me down.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Your
3, 2, 1.
It's literally the same.
If you were playing, you can do the blade switch and this switch without looking, whereas if you're whatever, I'm being fussy. Anyway, let's just give you the tones of a neck pickup into a clean amplifier, and anyway. I don't know what it is. There's a low end to a Les Paul that you could take these pickups and put them on that guitar, or put them on any guitar if you wanted to, and it still wouldn't sound
Well, some would
same.
some would say it would.
But they'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong.
I'm sorry to say, but they would. And that might not be a bodywood argument, but it's the sum total of, you know, the scale length, the type of tailpiece, the
everything
mixture
that
of the
touches
materials, you know. Sorry, I'm not in tune. So, neck pickup. Both pickups.
You've got 4 knobs, Lee.
4 knobs.
Lucky you. What are they for?
I'll split the...
I love that.
It's got almost that honky Telica. The 2 rear controls, so they were the 2 volume controls that do the splits. The 2 rear controls are also pullable. The back tone control is, we've always called it a blow switch. I think Gibson called it something else. But essentially the idea is that I might be on like a blend with the tone controls down. Maybe that's my rhythm sound. And I just want an easy way to go to back pickup with everything on full. So that's what that's doing. It's bypassing all the switching in the guitar and just going to back pickup full bore. The last one is the sort of Peter Green effect, which is where you take you have the guitar on its center position where both pickups are being used. And you pop this out and it wires them in back to front. So you get this phase cancelling.
That sounds amazing with a bit of gain.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm no Peter Green, but that was his kind of, that's why his guitar solo sounded so different to everyone else's. Now, of course, we could list off a ton of guitar players that were more sort of clean and bluesy and played a Les Paul, you know, along the lines of Peter Green and Eric Clapton and Les Paul and all those guys. But of course, there's a whole genre of much, much heavier Les Paul players. Slash, I guess, is probably the most famous one of them. But, you know, and I guess this, you know, this sound that you could get from a Les Paul, certainly guitar amps in the 50s when this was designed couldn't have made noises like this. So this wasn't even really discovered until the sort of 70s and the 80s, you know. And that's the moment when you do that with the Les Paul for the first time and you just, a little bit of wee comes out and you just go, oh, there's a sound, oh.
Well, should we, for the sake of argument, swap over guitars?
Because
just to give you the taste of a good guitar.
And look, much as I love to sort of wrap these videos up as a which one's better, I own a PRS, Rob owns 2 Les Pauls, and so I think we're both in the camp of, you know, they're both good guitars and you just choose the one that you like, you know, and hopefully most of you guys, you know, at some point in your lives will be lucky enough to try and own both. And then you just choose whichever you think is going to do the better job for the mood that you're in or the circumstance that you're in. But yeah, for sure. So instantly, very different feeling neck on this.
Yeah, very.
Wider, little thinner this way. And let's just... A similar sound, but not the same sound.
Yeah.
Anyway.
great.
Neither,
Plays great.
Yeah, neither sound bad. In terms of colours, I guess if anything, you'd probably be more familiar with PRS doing less traditional colours.
This is a bit more Disney than normal.
Yeah, and you'd be more familiar with Gibson doing, you know, more like your classic bursts and things like that. But in 2017, there's, you know, PRS you can buy in, you know, McCarthy sunbursts and all kinds of things that look like they're reminiscent of the 50s. And likewise with Les Paul, you can still buy those bursts, or you can buy it in the blueberry burst. I think they've got green guitars, you know, it's like, it's whatever you...
I like that. I like that they're getting a bit more kind of contemporary colours and just blowing the lid off, you know, whatever you want to do, man, any colour at all.
So let's do another jam, but with a bit more gain. Okay. And maybe what we'll just do halfway through the jam is just do a... and then just carry on.
All right.
Pedals-wise, let me just tell you... So I'm using a very clean amplifier for, you know, for my clean. And all my gain is coming from a mix of... the main gain pedal is the Plimsoll. I've got a slightly less gainy pedal, the Guru's Sexy Drive. Sexy Drive. I can fatten them all up with the EP boost. So here's without, here's with. And if I want to make it echo, I'm just using the trusty old carbon copy.
Should I run mine down then?
Please do.
Because I've come across the ultimate pedalboard combination for me at the moment, today, which is I've got the Immerse reverberator from New Neighbour, which is just doing us proud.
Sounds great.
Echo and delay in one pedal. I've got the Mjolnir, which everybody needs to love, which sounds like I've got the Fuzzrocious Feed Me, which I've got set one of 20,000 possible combinations, which without is like this. With. Now I could make that a gain pedal, because currently it's not configured to be so, but I could do this. Without. With. But if I combine the two the way I've got them set, it sounds like this. And then to top it all off, I'm so glad to say that I've got a roto vibe. And I can't believe I'm the first one of us to get a roto vibe. And it's the best thing I've had in years, and it sounds like this. That really is the polish your turd pedal, because anything you do that sounds even slightly bad,
it just adds
sounds
that
great.
Chewy. I mean, it's so Hendrixy sort of sounding, that, isn't it? But it just adds that chewy.
I really wish Dunlop would make a mini version, because it's huge on my board, and it's so big that it kind of falls off the edge of my pedal board.
I know, you need a bigger board.
Yeah.
Gonna need a bigger board.
I'm gonna need a bigger board.
carry on.
What?
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the Andertons Guitar YouTube channel. If you're a drummer or a keyboard player or interested in music technology, you might find one of our other channels interesting, and I'll put details of those in the description below. If you want to find out more about the products we've just featured, please click here. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt like this, please click here. If you want to watch another video on our guitar channel, click down here. And to subscribe to our guitar channel, click here. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.